center from every NBA team. Number 30, the Hornets with Al Jefferson. Bruh. I really do feel like the Hornets have come in at 30 in every single one of these videos. 29, the Mavericks and Tyson Chandler. We're really doing this. We're really ranking Tyson Chandler as the Mavs all-time best center, even though he's only played 2 seasons for them and averaged 10 a game. But there was really no one better to choose from. On the bright side though, he did play a big part on their 2011 championship team and played great defense that year. It's just, I mean, come on Dallas, get some better centers. 28, the Cavs with Zydrunas Ilgauskas. Solid center for Cleveland during LeBron's first run, but nothing special. 27, Brook Lopez for the Nets. He had a solid 9-year stretch with the Nets, averaging 20 and 7 for them, but they were a terrible team almost his entire time there. 26, the Bucks and Bob Lanier. Kareem would have taken the spot, but he'll be ranked on the Lakers. As for Lanier, he had his best years on the Pistons for sure, but still had some good ones in Milwaukee. 25, the Pacers and Jermaine O'Neal. Jermaine made it for the power forwards too, and ranked a lot higher for them because he had better years for Indiana at power forward, but was still the Pacers' best center too. The Thunder then take 24 with Jack Sikma. Just like the Mavs, the Thunder have had very few, even good centers in their history. Sikma's the best, but besides him, we're looking at guys like Nick Collison, Patrick Ewing, like I forgot he even played for the Sonics, Enes Kanter and Steven Adams. Adams is good, but when we're talking about all-time greats and he's mentioned, OKC's got a problem. 23, the Jazz and Rudy Gobert. Gobert was a tough one to rank. He's one of the best defenders in the NBA, having won the Defensive Player Award the past 2 years. But he's a second or third option on the team. His offense is getting a lot better, but still needs work. And his game's getting a lot better too with him making the All-Star team this season. But he'll never be a first option on a team. As his career goes on though, he'll still probably rank much higher. But for now, he's still young and he's just getting started. Next up, the Grizzlies come in at 22 with Marc Gasol. And we only rank Gasol slightly higher than Gobert because since he played a lot longer, he had the more diverse and complete offensive game, while his defense was nearly as good as Gobert's, but for different reasons, with him winning 1 Defensive Player Award. Gasol didn't just block shots, he could, but he could also, and still does have the ability to size up bigger centers and stand his ground, not letting them get past him, while also having the mobility to stay with some guards in the league. I'm sure Gobert will eventually rank over Marc, but for right now, he doesn't. 21, the Raptors and Chris Bosh. I ranked Bosh pretty high in my power forwards video for how well he performed with the Miami Heat, but with the Raptors, he played a lot of years there as center, and while he was an all-star for most of them, the Raptors barely ever had a winning record. Sure, he had no help, but for that and his 20 and 10 that he averaged is what gets him ranked here. 20, the Timberwolves and Karl Anthony Towns. And Minnesota has also barely ever had a winning record with Towns on it, but he ranks slightly higher than Bosh because he's a much more diverse player. He has a lot more potential on defense even though he wastes it. He's a great 3-point shooter when Bosh wasn't early in his career, and he's the better scorer by a good margin. So he ranks here and easily takes the spot for the Wolves. 19 goes to the Nuggets and Nikola Jokic. Jokic definitely ranks higher than Towns, and as we know, he's the best all-around center in the games today. And my pick for the best overall center in the NBA today. Every aspect of his game is solid. The only thing we need to see from him now is him taking his game to that next level. That superstar level. And hey, maybe that's where skinny Jokic can get him to. Number 18, we have the Bulls with Artis Gilmore. At 7'2", Gilmore had his best years in the ABA, but still averaged 23 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 blocks a game on 57% shooting in his best year from Chicago. And even though his name doesn't really get brought up too much, he was dominant for them in the late 70s. 17, the Kings and DeMarcus Cousins. Some people might not agree with Cousins being ranked this high, but let's not forget, for a very short amount of time before his injury, Cousins was the best center in the league. And before Jokic, he was one of the most diverse we had seen in a long time. Plus, thanks to management, Sacramento was always a terrible team, which is why he never made the playoffs with them, and that does hurt his ranking. If he had gotten help and he was still healthy, I mean, aside from him having anger issues, there was nothing DeMarcus Cousins couldn't do on the court. Then Amari Stoudemire comes in at 16 for the Suns, who, aside from Steve Nash, he was the backbone of those mid-2000s Suns teams. Cousins was definitely more of the complete player, but Stoudemire ranks higher than him for his playoff experience, which was a lot more than DeMarcus got, which was none. But Phoenix always needed to pair Amar'e up with a better big man and let him play power forward, but they were never able to. Him and Nash were still able to play some of the best pick and roll basketball we've ever seen though, and because of that, Amar'e got to show his true potential as a dominant player at the time. Number 15, the Pistons with Ben Wallace, who was a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year and won all of those awards while playing in Detroit. And without him, that team wouldn't have won the championship that they did. The man also never averaged double-digit scoring numbers, but that wasn't his role, and his defense more than made up for it. 14, the Hawks with Dikembe Mutombo. Mutombo was tough to rank because he only averaged 11 a game while in Atlanta, but he was so good on defense that it made up for it. So good that he won 3 of his 4 Defensive Player awards while there, averaging 11 points, 14 rebounds, and 3 blocks in his best season. And if you're wondering why Dikembe ranks this high for being a great defender, well, a guy like Rudy Gobert only ranked in at 23 for the same reason. Let's keep in mind, Mutombo is a Hall of Famer, and at this point, Rudy Gobert is not even close. 14, and now we get to number 13 with the Heat and Alonzo Mourning, who was great on offense, but also even better on defense. Early in his career, during his best years in Miami, he was averaging 20, 10, and 3.8 blocks a game. Times were different back then, guys were shooting less threes and driving in more, in turn getting blocked more, but still, even without that, 3.8 blocks a game is a lot. And Mourning was a Defensive Player of the Year in both of the seasons he averaged those numbers. Number 12, Anthony Davis for the Pelicans, whose true position, as we know, is power forward, and he also did rank in that video, but he played a few years at center too while New Orleans didn't have one. And he ranks this high for a lot of the same reasons that DeMarcus Cousins ranked where he did. New Orleans was always a bad team while he was there, and he rarely ever had much help. But he is also one of maybe the most diverse big men ever. He has scoring champ potential on offense every year, Defensive Player of the Year potential on defense, and always has MVP potential. He's just never been in the right position to win one. And Cousins' ranking dropped because he never made the playoffs with the Kings, and while Anthony Davis barely played many more playoff games, the man still averaged 30, 13, 2, and 2 in 2018, and was dominant making it to the second round. And seeing that his game translates even better to the postseason is why he ranks this high. Number 11, Bob McAdoo for the Clippers. McAdoo played great for the Clippers back in the 70s when they were still the Buffalo Braves. And while he was there, he led the NBA in scoring 3 straight seasons and won an MVP, making him the first MVP of the video. And the Wizards take number 10 with Wes Unseld. RIP to Wes Unseld. The man was without a doubt a Hall of Famer and did so while only averaging 10 points a game as a 6'7" center. 9, the Blazers and Bill Walton. Listen to this run he had in Portland. In 1977, he averaged 18, 14, and 3, leading the league in blocks and rebounds, making the all-defensive first team, winning the NBA championship and finals MVP, and then in 1978, he won the MVP award. Oh, and all of that was in the middle of playing limited games with a broken foot. Number 8, the 76ers and Moses Malone. Moses played in the 80s and was one of the most dominant two-way centers of all time. He was an NBA champ and a 2-time MVP while in Philly. 7, the Knicks with Patrick Ewing. Without a doubt the best Knicks player of all time. Never got a championship due to playing in the MJ era, but did make it to the 94 finals against Hakeem while Jordan was retired. And Ewing holds nearly every single important Knicks record that there is. Number 6, the Orlando Magic with Shaq. It was hard. I wanted to rank Dwight Howard here, and I tried to, but after thinking about it for a while, I just couldn't. Both men were taken first overall by the Magic, both men were dominant centers in Orlando, and 2 of the best in the league during their times there. And both men led their teams to the NBA Finals. Dwight did play 8 years for the Magic while Shaq only played 4, but when you break it down, they're pretty even in most categories. Dwight has the slight edge on rebounds, while Shaq has the slight edge on assists, blocks, and field goal percentage. Shaq was also a great defender, but in their primes, Dwight Howard and his 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards takes it. But with Dwight only averaging 18 points a game compared to Shaq's 27 a game, it really changes the discussion because that's way more than Dwight's ever averaged in a season. So we give the slight edge to Shaq. 5, David Robinson for the Spurs. All-time Shaq's the much better center, but David played his whole career in San Antonio, and he really is an underrated player. Throughout his career, he was a league MVP, a defensive Defensive Player of the Year, a scoring champ, rebounding leader, and led the league in blocks, which all definitely helped his case for being top 5 on this list. Number 4, the Rockets with Hakeem Olajuwon. The guy that's been pretty much known for most of his career and ever since then as the most complete and diverse center of all time. In his prime while MJ was retired, he was by far the best player in the NBA, having won the MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, NBA Championship, and Finals MVP all in 1994. And for 94 and 95, he was the best player on offense, the best player on defense, and even though he was never the fastest or the strongest center, he dominated the competition his entire career. 3. The Warriors and Wilt Chamberlain. And I had to include Wilt for the Warriors because that's where he had all of his personal best seasons, including his 50-point per game season. Towards the end of his career was when he became a better teammate and averaged less numbers, but during the beginning, he was the most dominant player of all time during his respective era. Number 2, Bill Russell and the Celtics. And we have to put him over Wilt because while Wilt was putting up the numbers, Bill was collecting all the rings, and championships mean more than just pure stats in pretty much every situation. Then finally for number 1, we have the Lakers and Kareem. And like most people, I have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the number 1 center of all time. 6 NBA championships, 6 league MVPs, unstoppable on offense with the skyhook, and was nearly just as dominant on defense. So it's really hard to find an argument against Kareem.